As Mark says, he comes and goes on a rainbow. You can also find his incredible writing at voicesfm.org. He is Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster. Michael, it's great to talk to you again. How you doing today?
I'm good, Mo. Hi, Kim. Hi, Albert. And hello, Remarkables. And can I get a hallelujah? Can I get one?
Hallelujah.
Okay. My Sweet 106. I don't want to pour more sugar on this, as a famous rock band would say, but my Sweet 106 cupcakes arrived yesterday, finally, including my dream choice, the chocolate mocha with Coachella Valley's Ocotillo espresso coffee mixed into it, and damned if they aren't as good as advertised on the Mark Thompson show. So I want to thank Mark in absentia as he tries to clean up the corruption in D.C., but arranged the delivery. And thanks to Cupcake Queen Christy Grammer and the rest of the Sweet 106 crew for the taste treats. Oh, so good. Wow.
Michael, now you got me thinking about cupcakes again. I was all ready to move forward. Now you drag us back into cupcakes. Damn you, damn you.
All right. Look, before we get to the reviews, a little palate cleanser. I want to tell my favorite new Polish joke. Did you hear the one about Pete Hegseth pulling out his troops? Too bad his father didn't. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I usually don't work blue, but that
this
was
is so
red,
ridiculous.
That was red, white, and blue, honestly. So let's get on to the movies. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. What you
All
got?
Right. Perhaps, and again, Mark isn't going to be on board with this. Kim won't be on board with this. And I want to actually warn people that it gets a little grisly, but what is perhaps the best horror movie of the year so far is Obsession. And it leans into youthful romantic angst, modern male insecurity, and wish fulfillment as it generates shocking and creatively gory moments with well-timed jump scares. And there's more than a little discomforting humor that results, as it did in the yelps of nervous laughter I heard at the screening I attended. I mean, there was a lot of whooping, and it's justified and earned. So, Obsession is a simple story cleverly told. 4 college-age friends work at a music store, 2 guys and 2 girls. One of the guys, Bear, has a crush on one of the girls, Nikki, but he fears he's in the friend zone. So while he's at a local New Agey curios shop, he decides on a whim to buy and try the One Wish Willow, which is a purportedly mystical stick that will grant one person one wish when they break the stick. So he wishes that Nikki would fall totally in love with him. You know, if you know the story of the monkey's paw, Mo, you have more than a hint about what can happen when a wish is granted. And if any of you are unfamiliar with the monkey's paw, I will just repeat the old adage, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. So the crucial lead actors of Obsession are just right in their roles. Michael Johnston, who plays the lovelorn Bear, is ideally schlubby, put upon, and somewhat warped by what happens after he wishes upon the magical Willow. But it's Indy Navarrete as the adorable object of his affection, Nikki, who owns the movie. And if you don't know Navarrete, she was quite good and very appealing as Lana Lang's daughter on the recent and well-made Superman and Lois TV show. But this is a whole nother level for Indy. Kudos to Curry Barker, first-time director and screenwriter, and he also edited the film. He totally nailed it. And incidentally, Andy Richter, Conan's sidekick, who was in Elf and Scary Movie and starred in his own sitcom, Andy Richter Controls the Universe. He has a small role as the manager of the music store where the 4 friends work. I met him at the screening, and I said to him, if laughter is the best medicine, I want to thank you, Dr. Richter. And you got to know that there are laughs in this movie, but it is filled with what we would say horrific moments. And again, if you like this kind of thing, run, don't walk to see Obsession. Okay, let's, by the way, it's opening wide. Moving on, In the Gray was a major disappointment for me. This is an intended thriller that was written and directed by Guy Ritchie, who has made a couple of clinkers, but has come through with many fine films, from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels to the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes to The Covenant to The Gentleman. And this stars Henry Cavill and Jake Gyllenhaal, with Isa Gonzalez and Rosamund Pike on board as well. There are no slouches here, right? Gonzalez plays a cutthroat and highly efficient lawyer who is hired by Pike's financial firm to recover $1 billion stolen from the company by a tyrannical criminal who oversees his own private island community. And the lawyer has a band of capable mercenaries who serve as her muscle, and they're led by the swaggering Cavill and Gyllenhaal characters, who are tasked with recovering the missing loot. And of course, action ensues. Despite the talent involved, there was a red flag here. No formal critic screening for this. That's kind of telling.
Explain that for those who don't know.
What, sorry?
Explain that, why it's a red flag when they hide the movie.
Well, it's as if the studio has no faith in it, or the distributor has no faith in it. They don't think it's going to do well. They think it's going to get mediocre reviews or worse. And here we go. So it's shot in Spain and Saudi Arabia, and it looks like it was pricey to make. And the credits reveal that there was considerable Saudi money invested in the film, but there is no depth to the characters. Motivations other than greed and survival are kind of vague. And though there's a lot of shooting and explosions, it's a caper movie. And I love caper movies, that's more wearying than exciting. The action sequences pile up, but the script is weak. It kind of leans far too much into expository voiceover narration from Gonzalez that's kind of colorless. I would suggest revisiting The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Ritchie's previous and sadly undervalued team-up with Cavill, who plays the lead role. It is way sharper, more stylish, and more fun than In the Gray, which is in theaters. Have you seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mo?
Not since the original.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool film. If you get a chance to stream it, it's certainly better than In the Gray. Speaking of capers and heist movies and such, there is a subgenre of films these days called screen life that are shot to look like they're playing out on a laptop or a desktop computer. And some examples that I appreciated are Searching, which featured no less than John Cho and Deborah Messing in significant roles, Missing, and Unfriended. But the latest screen life project is Life Hack. And Life Hack is a much better heist film than the much bigger budgeted In the Gray. In fact, as heist or caper films go in general, it really rocks. So 4 teenage hackers from different locations in the UK and America team up to rip off the billion-dollar Bitcoin wallet of an unscrupulous early adopter tech bro who happens to have a bulky teenage daughter who hates him. That's right. She hates him. Oh, my God. Anyway, Kyle, of course, Kyle is the ringleader who convinces the other three, Alex, Sid, and Petey, to go beyond playing video games and baiting online scam artists and instead make some serious bank with this caper. And it's really cool to watch their plan develop in this rapid fire time on their computer screens. And it is super tense to see how this risky business plays out. Congratulations to director and co-screenwriter Ronan Corrigan, who makes this all feel legit, and it gives it that you are there in the middle of it vibe it needs. And also, the young actors are great. They give it the verisimilitude that makes it fly. Let's point out who they are. Kyle is played by George E. Farmer. Alex is played by Yasmin Finney, who is a veteran of Doctor Who. Sid is played by Roman Hayek Green, and Petey's played by James Schultz. They're all really on point here. I enjoyed Life Hack, and because it's kind of a computer screen thing, I guess you can watch it at home, but I like the idea of supporting a movie this good in the theaters, and it is in select theaters somewhere near you, I hope. Okay, this is a movie that I think will interest you, Mo, and maybe people in our listening and viewing audience, because it's got a political and historical context.
Okay.
It is touted as an adaptation of an historical novel, but I get the feeling that The Wizard of the Kremlin gets many of the details right, as in accurate. And maybe the people behind it wanted to avoid any unpleasant repercussions if they go on the record as this being factual, since it's the story of Vadim Baranov, who was Vladimir Putin's spin doctor, his Karl Rove, if you will. So the Wizard of the Kremlin is set mostly in Russia in the early 1990s as the Soviet Union has broken up. And a guy, Vadim Baranov, is a reality TV producer, and then he is convinced to become the advisor to Vladimir Putin, who is, of course, a major agent in the KGB. So the story is told by Baranov in this movie to an American journalist who is played by the always wonderful actor Jeffrey Wright. Baranov is played by Paul Dano. Putin is played by Jude Law, and Baranov's longtime lover is played by Alicia Vikander. This is a terrific cast. It's a fascinating topic. And the director is the wonderful French director Olivier Assayas, who has decided to work in English here in this movie about Russia's recent history. And the problem is the story is told, and it just kind of putters along as it's told. The actors are good. The art direction is solid. And again, it's a fascinating tale about this guy's rise. And it's certainly relevant to what we're dealing with today, especially with the conflict with the Ukraine and Russia. But it kind of just putters along, and there's not a lot of depth to the characters. Nonetheless, for me, it was fascinating to get information I hadn't had before all in one place, and no qualms whatsoever with the performers and the performances. The Wizard of the Kremlin is currently in select theaters, and if it sounds interesting to you, or you want to learn more about the rise of Putin, how it happened, and this guy who was pulling the strings in a way behind the scenes, I'd say check it out. Again, it might be more worthwhile to wait until it comes to streaming, but it's not a waste of time. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Driver's Ed is a kind of throwaway teen comedy that I enjoyed while I was watching it. It was kind of silly. It's directed by Robert Farrelly of the Farrelly brothers, and it features a fresh-faced young cast, and also in supporting roles, Molly Shannon, ex-SNL, who plays the principal of the school these teenagers go to, and Kumail Nanjiani, who never fails to impress. He plays the driving instructor in the school's driver's learning class, and he is kind of a bit of a rebel, and the kids end up stealing the driver's ed car because the main character, who is a kid named Jeremy, played by Sam Nivola, is in love with a girlfriend who has gone off to college, slightly older than him, and he is afraid he's going to lose her. So he convinces three other kids who are in the driver's ed class to join him in the stolen car and go see the college freshman girlfriend and basically woo her back and make sure she hasn't gone astray. And there are moments, I enjoyed it. The screenwriter Thomas Moffat, it's okay. It is, in fact, in theaters, select theaters, and it's also streaming today. It mildly entertaining. This is the Michael Snyder rating, not terrible, let's put it that way. And let's wrap things up quickly with Magic Hour, which is produced by the acting and filmmaking Duplass brothers, who have been at the forefront of the low-budget, naturalistic mumblecore movie genre. And this drama, Magic Hour, was written and directed by Katie Aselton, who stars in it opposite the East Bay's own Daveed Diggs. Shout out to Oakland, who you may know from Hamilton and the TV version of Snowpiercer. And Aselton and Diggs deliver on the emotional front as a couple trying to cope with grief in the aftermath of a tragedy. They seemingly together go out to a kind of a little B&B situation, a guest house of a friend of theirs who is played by Brad Garrett, and it's located in the Joshua Tree Desert area, and try to work through all of this thing. The movie kind of tips its hand pretty early, then plays out as you might suspect, but the performances by Aselton and Diggs carry it home. It has a short running time. Susan Sullivan is in the supporting part. I wish I could say it was great, but nice try, interesting, well acted, and it does have emotional weight thanks to the performances. Again, it's called Magic Hour. And that's it on the movie front. Should we? I'll give you a brief TV recommendation. What do you say?
All right, I'm curious because I saw Punisher One Shot last night, and I wonder what you thought about that.
Okay, Punisher. The Punisher One Last Kill is the actual title of this baby.
One Last Kill.
And as PTSD wreaks havoc on his mental state, retired military vet Frank Castle has brought hellfire on those who murdered his family. We know this. This is the Punisher. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel Television. And here we see what inspires him to continue his war against crime as the Punisher. It's a one-shot special starring John Bernthal, who has made the character his own since the first Daredevil series on Netflix. And he is the MCU's blunt force against street-level villains. This is, I think, set between his recent appearance in Daredevil Born Again, a terrific series I highly recommend. It's had 2 seasons on Disney+. And he has an upcoming appearance in Spider-Man Brave New World as the Punisher. But this finds Frank in full vengeance mode as his New York neighborhood descends into chaos. This guy is Marvel's own John Wick. And the violence is nonstop in the last 15 minutes of the movie of the show. And Bernthal, who is painfully good as Mikey in the recent prequel episode of The Bear, is as devastating as usual as Frank Castle, who spends the first part of this wrestling with his torment and deals with some serious issues regarding veterans and PTSD in its way. I will say there's nonstop brutal action in the last part of it, and those who try to avoid graphic depictions of violence are warned away. But for the rest of us, especially Marvel fans, I think you should check this out. And by the way, Bernthal co-wrote this with the project's director, Ronaldo Marcus Green, and Judith Light, of all people, makes an appearance here in a role that is, I'll call it, quite a contrast from her sitcom run in Who's the Boss, The Punisher One Last Kill. Your thoughts, Mo?
I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I knew what it was going to be. I knew it was going to be The Raid, if you're familiar with that martial arts movie, meets John Wick, meets The Purge, and it's mindless for the most part. It's not that long. It's only maybe an hour or so.
A little less than an hour.
And, you get to learn more about the emotional state of Frank Castle, which I thought was an added plus, because it's usually just he's killing. But you don't understand emotionally where he's been or what he's endured and who he's evolved into. And they deal with all of that, where I don't want to give anything away, but he thinks his punishing days are behind him, and the world, just like John Wick, pulls him back in.
Yeah, very apt, very well done. And for Daredevil fans, yes, one of your favorites does make an appearance. I won't say who and how, but if you saw the earlier Punisher shows, you know who it is. And I guess, one more quick note. Do you mind? We'll throw out one more thing. For the people who don't like violence, I have to say high praise for Margot's Got Money Troubles on Apple TV. What a showcase for Elle Fanning, whose career takes another leap forward from her run as Catherine the Great on The Great, and her acclaimed performance in Sentimental Value, and her action role in Predator Badlands. She plays Margot, who is a college girl who gets pregnant by one of her professors and has to drop out. She's a smart woman. She's an aspiring writer, and she's got to figure out a way to raise her child. She also happens to be the daughter of a former Hooters waitress played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And she's the daughter of a retired pro wrestler played by Nick Offerman. And there are complications as she decides to earn money the only way she thinks she can at this point, which is start an OnlyFans channel. And I got to say, Fanning gives Margot such depth and complexity, and Pfeiffer as her mom, Cheyenne, and Offerman as her dad, Jinx, they're just as good. And in fact, Offerman might want to prepare an award acceptance speech for his work here. Plus, you get Greg Kinnear as Cheyenne's current suitor, and Nicole Kidman as Offerman's ex-wrestling partner. She's now a lawyer. This is good stuff, and it is the creation of David E. Kelly, noted for Ally McBeal and other projects. And I couldn't endorse this more. Margot's Got Money Troubles, Apple TV.
Before we let you go, Michael Snyder, a quick review on this Culture Blaster. We talked about Obsession, which you saw as the best, possibly the best horror film of the year. Be careful what you wish for. Better read the fine print whenever you have a wish, and it's well cast and acted. We have In the Gray. You thought it was a major disappointment. Guy Ritchie, written and directed, also a tremendous cast, but there was no pre-screening kind of letting you know that they didn't have high expectations for the success of this film. As you said, it was a major disappointment, so I probably won't be seeing that. There's Life Hack, which you depicted as another Screen Life movie. So those of us who are involved in social media and see how it plays out, it's another movie through that lens. It's a heist film talking about 4 teenage hackers who team up to rip off a tech bro. Michael, you said you enjoyed it, so that means I'll probably enjoy it. There's also The Wizard of the Kremlin, story of Vladimir Putin's rise, and the man behind it, you liken it to maybe like a Karl Rove figure, has a wonderful cast of Jeffrey Wright, Paul Dano, Jude Law, Alicia Vikander, but it's slow moving and not a lot of depth to those characters, but interesting enough for your time. I think I'm going to check it out because the cast alone intrigues me. There's Driver's Ed, which I took, 42 years ago. It's probably different now, but it's a throwaway teen comedy from a mind of one of the Farrelly brothers. It talks about kids stealing a driver's ed car and the escapades which ensues. It has its moments. It's okay. I may or may not. It sounds like I kind of know what's going to happen in the movie already just from the premise, but we'll see. And there's Magic Hour, which you, Michael, said it delivers on the emotional front, talking about a couple dealing with grief after a tragedy. But there are no surprises. Good performances, but no surprises. But it's not a great overall movie. And you did give us 2 television offerings. There's The Punisher, One Last Kill, which is on Disney+. And if you are involved in anything which is the MCU, John Bernthal inhabits the role of Frank Castle, and they give you as true a depiction of the Punisher as you could, over the top murder and all sorts of violence that you couldn't even foresee. It takes place under an hour and it delivers. You get an emotional sense of the character Frank Castle and how he's become the Punisher and what he wants to do afterward being the Punisher, even though the world doesn't want him to end being the Punisher. And there's also Margot's Got Money Troubles, which is on Apple TV, stars Elle Fanning, talking about a college girl who gets pregnant by one of her professors at college and what she has to do to sort out her life, which becomes dysfunctional as she comes from a pro wrestling dad and a former Hooters mom. Now that intrigues me just from the premise. And you say it has great performances and obviously a great cast with Nick Offerman and Nicole Kidman and more. I'm all the way in on Margot's Got Money Troubles. Michael Snyder, anything else before we depart?
No, just, a hearty go get them to the Giants, who are in Sacramento playing the A's this weekend. They split with the Dodgers. That's important to me. And I'll be hitting the art gallery circuit in Los Angeles tomorrow, including one of my favorite galleries has a bunch of artists on the walls, new stuff at Corey Helford Gallery, and also I think there's more hijinks in store, but, we'll let you get to the end of the show. And thanks again. You can check out my work in the Voice of San Francisco at thevoicesf.org. My current column is up right now, and it is all about The Sheep Detectives, one of my favorite movies of the year.
Michael, outstanding. I'm sorry that you're a Giants fan, but not everyone's perfect. Go Dodgers. And, I want you to have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
Talk soon. There he goes on a rainbow.